6 strange stories. Beginning with She Left Me. For Werewolf. Dear Scary Stories NYC. I thought I was in love with this girl, but she mistreated me. She bossed me around and told me I needed to be more polite. I had to say please, I had to say thank you, I needed to smile more, I needed to groom better. Then she left me for this hairy werewolf moron who doesn't even say gesundheit when she sneezes. I'm so mad about it I could bite a pig. I thought our marriage was going better. My wife suddenly stopped whining for me to pay more attention to her, and she stopped nagging me to make love to her more. I figured I must be satisfying her better and that life must be improving. So when this monster man started climbing in my bedroom window, up on the second floor of our home, I grabbed my Louisville Slugger and I started laying some bunts down using his cranium, if you can decipher my meaning. I thought I was battling a guy in a monster mask and a furry costume, but when I hit a ground rule double using his skull, I saw a dog tooth fall out of that skull and land on the bedroom floor. What kind of mask has real teeth in it? Before I could pick up that tooth, my wife grabbed it away and the hairy guy leaped out of the window he had climbed into. When I grabbed the phone to call the cops, my wife took it away from me. Then I got lectured. She took the monster's side and told me I was being cruel and oppressive or some nonsense like that. If a man breaks into our bedroom, I'm going to beat his head in with my bat. But if it's a monster, I'm going to swing twice as hard. She said that my attitude was toxic. I couldn't understand what was going on until eventually I figured out that this was not the first time that werewolf guy had snuck into our bedroom. This was just the first time he did it when I was awake. Yeah, this guy, he had been climbing our house in his werewolf form, coming in that window, messing around with my wife, then turning back into his werewolf form to climb out and run home. He was using his werewolfism to disguise himself and have a human affair with my wife. At the time when I found this out, I was receiving the information as gossip from a mutual friend. I wasn't sure how this guy was scaling walls and appearing as a werewolf, but my initial assumption was that it was an elaborate and sophisticated costume. I then went to my wife's laptop, which she left unlocked, and I read her emails and chats. This guy was telling her that he was a real werewolf in these notes and exchanges. She at first was doubting him and demanding proof, but after a point her tone changes. Then she writes about how exciting it is to witness him changing. I still don't really know how he does it as I write this to you, but my wife, who has filed for divorce, believes that she is leaving me for a werewolf. In fact, she is certain of it. I saw the foul werewolf creep with my own eyes. I smelled him with my own nostrils. I batted him in the face and watched him just sort of shrug it off. He sure did look like something other than a human to me. Now, I've never witnessed him transform. I saw him in his werewolf shape, and I've seen him as a human too many times since then. I've never seen the one become the other. But I don't doubt that he's the same guy I fought with in the bedroom that night. In these hard times, a lot of guys feel disheartened about the idea of ever getting to settle down with a nice woman or have a chance to father a family. But one subspecies of us seems to have no trouble at all finding mates, and that is the werewolf subspecies. The creep she dumped me for has already gotten her pregnant, and he's the father of kids by at least 2 other women that I know of. What kind of kids is he leaving with these women to raise, while he goes out and gets more human women to knock up, stealing them from their human boyfriends and husbands? Is my wife bearing a werewolf child in her belly? The sickest part is that she thinks he's gonna marry her and stop messing around. She thinks she's gonna change him, but more likely she bears his child and comes back to me, asking me to help raise his brat. She knows that my natural inclination would be to take her back, which is why I have to brace myself for that exact eventuality. If she does come back to me, I'm gonna have to tell her no. I won't give over my entire life to raise some other man's child, when he refuses to do it himself. But I most certainly am not going to raise the son of some animal. And that's what a werewolf is. An animal. She should have thought twice before she dumped me. I will never forgive that woman because she left me for a werewolf. My crazy ex-girlfriend has become a werewolf. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I don't know what it is with me, but I have quite a track record. One of my ex-girlfriends got her eyelids pierced and started dating women after she dumped me. Another one went completely celibate. And this woman I'm going to talk about right now has gone and become a werewolf. No, that's not a fancy code name or slang term. I literally mean she became a werewolf. She transforms into a partially human and partially canine creature. And she roams the woods outside of town, eating squirrels and whatnot. Yeah, she blames me. All three of them blame me. Don't ask me to explain why either, even though you can believe me that I've been lectured to death about what it is that's so horrible about me. None of the reasons seem to have less than 5 syllables in the name. Some of the things I'm supposed to have done, like microaggressions, I don't even think those are real things. I think someone made that up in a woke grievance competition, and I bet they won the prize that day, too. When dimwits talk to me about microaggressions, it makes me macro-aggressive. And of course that's even more problematic. When the human race completely stops reproducing, and St. Peter asks us why we did ourselves in, we'll be able to tell him it was the microaggressions. You know, maybe our species wasn't meant to survive. Take Molly, for instance. My ex, I mean, not the drug. Molly says the problem with me is that I'm too aggressive. So her reaction is she becomes an animal that tears the heads off of smaller animals, and somehow that makes things better? Does any of that make sense? It doesn't to me. The first time I saw Molly transform into the wolf creature, it was when she was visiting me and the mailman walked over to hand me my mail. We had been chatting in front of the house, and in fact I was surprised at how friendly she was acting. This was after our breakup, and I hadn't seen her for almost half a year. She was chatting me up when the mailman walked over, like I said, and she totally bitched out in front of both of us. That's Molly's term for it, not mine, by the way. She bitched out. She became the werewolf. Her face stretched forward into a dog nose and snout, and she growled in that poor guy's face. The mailman made a little squealy sound, then he ran off. It was like the mailman's natural fear of canines was activated, and he ran back to his stuff and got out of there fast. Molly was laughing at him and saying she clearly wasn't the first werewolf to bitch out in front of that mailman. Now, I don't know why canines hate mailmen so much, but it's clear they do. Another thing nasty bitch werewolves hate is your girlfriend. No matter if you're going steady or if it's the first date, you better hope you don't run into your werewolf ex. She will tell your date private stuff about you that no woman should hear on the first date. Even if she has to make something up, she'll turn that woman off on you. And if she can't do it by smearing your name, then she'll do it the way she did it with my mailman. She'll bitch out in that other girl's face, and from then on, you are werewolf property as far as that other girl's concerned. She's never going to be interested in you again. It's over. Believe me, you don't have a chance if your werewolf ex-girlfriend finds out about your relationship. There's very little in life that's worse than having a psycho ex-girlfriend. In fact, the only thing that is worse is if that psycho ex-girlfriend has some kind of power. In my case, my crazy ex-girlfriend has become a werewolf. I saw a dogman frozen in a cave wall. Dear Scary Stories NYC, my father made enemies of the mayor of this certain town that I won't name, and we all had to run into the hills to hide out. The plan was he was going to kill us all, but make it look like an ordinary home invasion. I won't even get into it. Just don't make enemies of politicians. Just because they kiss babies on TV doesn't mean they play by the rules, or of any human decency at all. My father's side of the family is native, and we had a cousin leading us out of the human world into the world of mist and animal intelligences. He told us that as long as we were there, the criminal politicians would not be able to sense us in any manner, even if we were 30 feet away. I didn't understand why he said it was so, but it was clear that we were in a different kind of a world, even though we were also still clearly in this world too. There was a cave that we went into, which seemed like a tunnel for a long time, but then opened up into another kind of reality. It was frozen in there. The walls were ice, and icicles came down from the ceiling, yet it didn't feel as cold as this would imply. There were sheer walls, which were bright blue ice, and in some walls, we could see animal and plant life which had been frozen in that ice. I wondered how long ago these things were frozen. I saw leaves, a large insect like a bee, and in one wall I saw a werewolf, a man-sized werewolf frozen under the ice but standing erect, his 2 feet beneath him, his head with pointed dog ears on top, and his hairy clawed arms out to each side. He looked like he had somehow been flash frozen into that water, and none of us could understand how this could have happened. My brother asked if that cave could have frozen, then tilted over on its side. Was the werewolf originally drowned? Then was that water he drowned in rolled over, so that now he appeared to be standing up, inside the wall of frozen water? It wasn't just a strange thing to see. It was a strange thing to understand. We were seeing an unknown species, and we were seeing it in a context we couldn't understand either. It was confusing and weirdly unnerving, even though it wasn't going to hurt us while it was frozen in the wall. So when my cousin woke me in the middle of the night and told me the werewolf was thawing out, I went into instant fear for my life, for all our lives. I saw it too. As we left, we had to file past the thing, and it was thawing out of that wall. The ice was almost down to its face, and the thing was already starting to smell bad. Our cousin apologized and said he shouldn't have brought us there, and that it had upset the spirits. Our cousin said the werewolf must have been a guardian. We had awakened it, and we were clearly unwelcome. As dangerous as it would be, we were going to have to return to the human world, and take our chances with the kinds of monsters that people are. Nothing so weird ever happened to me again, and I'm going to be 70 if I'm still here in July. I remember it like it was a dream, and yet I'm certain that it really all happened back when I was a teenager and my family was on the run. I saw a dogman, frozen, in a cave wall. My cat preferred to walk upright. Dear Scary Stories NYC. When I was a kid, we briefly had a cat named Squinky that liked to walk upright a lot of the time. He was a short little cat, so maybe he walked upright to give himself added height, I don't know. I do know that he liked to carry things in his front paws, and that might have been the main reason he taught himself how to do this. It was the cutest and funniest little thing. We would call him our little man cat. He was kinda suave and debonair. You could almost imagine him with a cigarette in one hand and a drink in the other. When he was a kitten, he was the runt of the litter. We took him home from his larger brothers, and he was our only cat. He had these 2 catnip-scented stuffed toys, and he used to carry them from one room to another one at a time in his mouth. When we got him a younger kitten brother, he did not want to share those 2 catnip toys. So he figured out how to walk upright on his hind legs. Then he would carry one toy in his mouth and the other in his arms, and he'd do his best to keep both of them away from the younger cat. Eventually he did learn to share, but he kept walking upright after that anyway. Maybe it was because it was so entertaining and we would encourage him to do it. Whatever his reason was, he was walking on 2 legs occasionally right up until the end. I'm sending this into your show because I think that sometimes we go off looking for an entire species to explain every sighting that someone has. What I think, though, is that we're all individuals, animals too. When someone sees an upright walking wolf, it might not mean that there's an entire species of upright walking wolves in that forest. It might mean that there's one weirdo wolf that, for whatever his or her personal reason, figured out how to walk upright. Maybe they did it to be able to carry things in their front arms like my cat Squinky did. But maybe they injured their front arms and walking upright is their only choice. I'm not saying that there aren't or couldn't be real werewolves or that there aren't or couldn't be real dogmen that breed and are different from other canines. I'm just saying that I bet a percentage of dogman sightings are of unique individual animals like my Squinky, who have their own personal private reasons for walking around upright. Thank you for listening. I saw a cat with wings. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I used to know a woman whose daughter had a cat with wings. They were full and white and looked like angel wings. I don't think she could flap them, but she would jump off the roof and use the wings to glide to the ground. It was about the funniest thing I ever saw. We'd all fall down laughing when we'd see her do her gliding off the roof trick. This was a small cat. You could have held her in one hand if she'd allowed you to get close enough to do that. But she didn't like to be held or touched, and she could do damage like a much larger cat when she got angry. My mother told me she felt the wings on her back were just matted fur, but nobody ever got close enough to that cat to know for sure. It might make sense since she was never brushed. She was too crazy a cat to get close to brush. She'd have probably ripped your eyes out if you even tried it. But whatever the wings were made out of, they were wings, and she knew how to use them for gliding down from high spots. She seemed to have them on purpose, so if they were matted fur, maybe she deliberately cultivated them, like dreadlocks or something. My uncle told me there used to be a winged cat that would go on the Today Show, and I looked it up. It did in fact happen. There was this little white cat called Thomas, even though she was a girl cat. Her wings eventually fell off and were in fact just matted, unbrushed cat fur. Thomas never flew with her wings though, and after they fell off, she was set loose in the woods. Seems people only cared about her when she could get them on television. Poor little Thomas. So I guess it's not exactly as rare a thing to see as a dogman or anything, but I saw a real-life cat with wings. The Upright Catman of Jersey City. Dear Scary Stories NYC, I used to live in Jersey City when I was a kid into my 20s, when my family and I both moved to Hoboken. When we were in Jersey City, we had an apartment that overlooked Van Voorst Park. Van Voorst is not a huge park, just a couple blocks long in each direction. On 3 different occasions, I saw an upright man-sized were-creature walking down the street next to the park. I want to reiterate that it was on the sidewalk, not in the park, and in each case it was chugging along as though it were in a bit of a rush. It was not running, though. I should explain that in those days I used to stay up late at night watching broadcast TV. Late night TV was fascinating to me in those days. It was exciting, believe it or not. It felt electric, and it turned your humdrum teenager bedroom into a receiver of magical information and ideas and sensations. And that was when we'd get to see the Kenny Everett video show from England, or the SCTV show from Canada. That was when my eyes were glued to the boob tube. But unfortunately, those were also times when there were a lot of commercials, and my mind would drift through those. I would go look out the window at the park at night until the commercials were over. It was dark out there and pretty desolate. Jersey City was not the safest place in those days, and I did see a lady get her purse snatched one night. But like I said, on 3 nights, I saw a werewolf or dogman chugging along down under my window over by the greenery of the park. On one occasion, my sister was up late with me watching Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, showing late night on Channel 9, because she had this weird crush on Alan Ormsby for whatever reason. She also saw the creature on the sidewalk, and she leaned out my window and snapped a flash picture of it. It didn't show anything when we finally got it developed weeks later, but the flash going off did alarm the creature, who ran off into the night. Now, I don't think it was a dogman-like animal because there was no place for an animal to be walking to over there. It's all urban. I also don't think it was a costume person because the legs were all weird and strange. I personally think it was a shapeshifter, like a werewolf, but feline instead of canine. In my opinion, there was a werewolf cat in Jersey City in those days. And although we would go on to see plenty of strange things when we moved to Hoboken, we never again saw anything so strange as the Catman of Van Voorst Park.
It's a classic pullover, hoodie with the guy. Some classic pullover, bloody and understandable to logo. Available in white, black, navy, gray, or pink. Link is in the description.
There's no time for hawing and hemming. It's time to pay tribute to James Fleming. James Fleming is a $7 club member of our PayPal subscribers club, which you too can join at peterbernard.com. That means James gets to see our secret uncensored stories which come out on Sundays, as well as our over 25 hours of archived Dogman stories. If you're interested in becoming a club member like James, then listen to what this next little guy has to say. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after I think 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.